This is a Gear Network production.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy, Mr. Perez, and you're listening to the Better Live Than Dead podcast, brought to you exclusively on Gear Network. Listen in.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 40.
40.
This is 40.
4-0.
Like that movie, except not that movie.
Like the 40-year-old version?
Well, the 40-year-old version, or this is 40. Whatever 40 movie you want to put with this podcast this week, it's 40.
It's 40.
I don't even know what else to say. I'm Ryan Wolf.
I'm Mr. Perez.
We are Better Live Than Dead. Hey, real quick, before we jump into the news.
Yes.
Because we don't have a lot of time this week. We're both busy people.
We are.
Mostly because I like to piggyback things off of things. The person over here sitting across from me, Perez, does not like to make plans. But when I do make plans, I always seem to make them like within a small time frame of each other. So,
yeah. See, I don't do that. When I make plans, I give a very wide range because chances are I'm going to be late anyway.
Yeah. Well, I recorded an interview this morning, which you'll hear later in the podcast, and then you're showing up, and then after you're showing up, I have probably about an hour and 10 minutes to record this podcast today, because then I'll be going to get my hair cut at noon. You know, and then my day's done. But that's a cool thing. If you plan all your stuff in like a small time frame, everything's done really quick.
So you got to go get your hair cut. I got to go to work.
I got to get my hair did.
You got to get your hair did.
My hair did.
I got to roll out the water sounds today.
Ooh.
So
doesn't sound gonna be too much fun, but
you know what, man?
It's a nice day for a ride, though.
Listen, here's the deal.
Okay.
Here's why. As much driving as I do, like yesterday, I was in Utica.
Wow.
So that's almost. I had to go to Herkimer first, and that's about 240 from Rochester. Well, here's what I do. I take my passenger seat. I set up my phones in a row because I carry several phones.
You've got like 50 phones, yeah.
Yeah, I got my tablet against the back of the seat. Got the phones next to it, so they don't slide down. I put my lighters on top of my phones. I clip a cigar. I light a cigar, and I put my car on cruise, and I lay back.
You hang out pretty much.
Yeah, man.
The whole ride.
I got my Sirius XM blasting some either salsa merengue or some hip hop. You know, like
I don't know if
chill.
if I pulled up next to you on the thruway or just had a light or anything, and you were smoking a cigar, chilling in your car, listening to that station. I don't know what I would do. I probably would just keep driving, even if it was. I would just drive through the red light.
Right.
I'm not sure what to do right now.
Yeah, people will pull up next to me. Like if I got the sunroof open and you can hear the music, and I'm just smoking a cigar, people just look at me kind of funny. But you know what? It's not. I don't look like I'm trying to hurt anyone. It looks like I'm chilling. Yeah,
that's the thing. It's just like, am I missing something?
Right.
Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, man.
Got a very, very busy podcast today. First off, we've got news. As usual. We've got a hello segment. Story time. We've got an interview with WGR 550's Matthew Coller to talk the Sabres and the Amherst. We've got a big football segment this week. I lied to you, Perez. Remember I said a couple weeks ago, it's going to be a while till we don't have a baseball segment.
Right.
Well, we've already reached the point where we don't have a baseball segment.
Yeah, but you know what, though? I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about it in the news.
We've got a big chunk of baseball to talk about this week.
Yeah, okay.
But I just wanted to make football a segment because, finally, after months of ruthless beating over the head from ESPN and other media sources, the NFL draft, ladies and gentlemen, finally is upon us. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, we had schedules released this week in the National Football League. We'll highlight some big dates. And obviously, there's always whatever we feel like talking about, we just end up talking about.
That sounds fun to me, man.
Seamlessly transitioning, I should say, over to the news segment. In the PGA, coming off a strong Masters performance, Tiger Woods announces he will play in the Players' Championship, which is the first week of May. So hopefully...
Not surprising.
Well, not especially after that Masters performance, it's not surprising, as mentioned. But hopefully Tiger Woods can continue to better his game because...
Yes.
I mean, I love seeing history, and I love seeing Tiger Woods good, and I love seeing Tiger Woods make history.
And he's close.
Very close.
You know, it would be a shame... It would be a shame. I think, I don't think he deserves it, so to speak, but he was the best golfer
it's like
of our generation.
It's apples to oranges.
Right.
But it's like Alex Rodriguez. He got to this point where he's so close to setting records, I mean, if he sets records, it's not going to mean anything.
And I feel a little worse for Tiger simply because it's not like a steroid scandal.
No, it's just that his body broke down and he got old. Yeah,
and he got busted. Sleeping with a ton of chicks.
And maybe that was what made it everything. The I don't know what the
that was the start of the downgrade.
Well, I don't know what the saying is. It's like that is the thing that holds everything together.
The crux.
Sure, I was trying to think of a white person thing to say, but I just got nothing.
I'm not white, so.
Well, crux is not a word I would say, so I guess it's fair.
It's all good.
I don't know. Moving over to the WNBA, Phoenix.
The linchpin? You trying to say linchpin?
Maybe.
Like the linchpin that held everything together?
It's the something that held everything together.
Probably the linchpin.
But whatever.
That sounds very Caucasian.
Okay. The linchpin that held everything together. Now it's Caucasian. The WNBA now. Phoenix Mercury center Brittany Griner and her fiancé were arrested on assault allegations. Apparently they got in a fight that turned physical, and both of them were arrested on allegations of assault.
With each other?
With each other.
That sucks.
Well,
I would like to know how that fight went. Like, Brittany Griner's like 7 feet tall.
I'm pretty sure her girlfriend is also very tall as well.
Oh, I'm sure.
If I'm not mistaken. I can't remember.
I can't see that being a very... maybe it was a very aggressive fight.
Well, hopefully they get things figured out and everything gets better for sure. But.
Right.
Moving over to the NCAA now, men's basketball. University of Buffalo guard Shannon Evans announces his intention to transfer to Arizona State following ex-head coach, now new head coach, Bobby Hurley. He had 15.4 points per game last season, was a very important cog in the machine. I think that's the thing I was looking for.
Okay, that's a good one.
The cog in the machine in Buffalo's run to the NCAA tournament for the first time ever, so obviously he'll be missed, but he wasn't very happy with how Buffalo was working things after Bobby Hurley left, so he decided to take his talents to Arizona State, where he'll probably get more attention, more national attention nationally, and it may improve his stock, potentially going to the NBA.
I ain't gonna lie to you. If I was a guy and my parents named me Shannon, I'd be pissed.
That's fair. That's fair. Moving over to Mississippi State now. Perez, pay attention to this story.
I'm listening, bro.
Johnny Zappardo was arrested after running a red light. But the reason he was arrested because his license was suspended.
Okay.
Why was his license suspended, you ask? Because in the wonderful state of Mississippi, you can have your license suspended if you get ticketed for illegal fishing.
Did you say illegal fishing?
Dude was ticketed for illegal fishing. His license then was suspended. Then he ran a red light and was arrested for it because of the
illegal fishing.
Illegal fishing, yes.
Illegal fishing.
Illegal fishing, yeah. I thought you would...
As in, like, reel, rod, lures, body of water.
Well, apparently he was... from what I gathered, he wasn't fishing in the proper zone or didn't have a license to fish where he was fishing.
So they can suspend your license? As in your driver's license?
Yeah. Apparently it's a big deal down there.
That's... Of all the most... Okay.
Here's the deal. I read stories and I know...
That may be the most ridiculous arrest in the history of arrests.
I hear stories and I know Perez will love it. I almost didn't put this in the podcast, but I read it back when I wrote the podcast, and I thought to myself, I'm like, Perez is going to love this story.
That's... Hey, so what you get arrested for? I was illegally fishing.
I got pulled over for running a red light, which no one ever gets arrested for. Well, why did you get arrested? Well, there was a warrant out because I don't even know if there was a warrant out, but I would assume there was something there because he illegally fished.
Yeah, I was illegally fishing.
And the best part is all the puns that came out of it. Something fishy about this arrest. Those things.
That's crazy, bro.
Moving over to the NBA, Atlanta Hawks coach Mike Budenholzer, I believe is how you say his name. Coach of the year. Not surprising. Although Steve Kerr probably should have won it, but
yeah,
the Atlanta Hawks were not very good and got very good, where the Golden State Warriors are kind of really good. And
did you watch the Golden State game the other day?
Dude, I can't even. Like, white girl can't even.
That was a crazy game.
Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry. So I don't know. I said Stefan. I'm getting there.
Stephen Curry.
I'm thinking of Stephon Marbury.
Yes.
Stephen Curry. He can seriously, like, I don't think there's any player in the game right now that's better than he is.
Well,
he can hit a shot from anywhere on the floor.
Yeah, he actually struggled in the fourth quarter. He missed the original three-pointer. Green got the rebound, tossed it back to him in the corner, and he got basically mugged by like 3 dudes.
Well, it's great because if you saw the picture, people in podcast land, he had his arm up in the air, the follow through, and his head was completely turned, like away from the basket, as the ball was just coming off his hand.
Yeah.
So he didn't even know where that was going. He just threw it up and was just
swish. And here's the crazy part. I was watching the game up until 7 minutes left when they were down by 20.
Yeah, big mistake.
And I went and pulled up my DVR, watched Gotham, which is an awesome freaking show, by the way. Got done with Gotham, and my plan was then to watch The Flash. Mm-hmm. Yes, I watched a lot of comic book shows. And it was it went back to that channel because I was watching that game, and it was in overtime, and Golden State was up by 3. And I was like, what the freak did I just miss? So I rewound it.
Yeah, I didn't catch the game live, but I was kind of paying attention, and I was like, okay, Golden State's out of this. And then I was on Twitter, and I just saw Curry hits. I just saw a bunch of oh my gods and wows and all this stuff, and I'm like,
I woke up my wife because she was fast asleep.
Yeah, and
I literally was like, what did I miss? And I said it a lot louder than I meant to. And she was like, you okay? And I was like, no. I apparently just missed something epic.
By the way, what do you think about Daredevil coming back for a second season?
Oh, I'm happy about that. Daredevil's freaking awesome.
I have to watch it, but I've heard really good things.
It's gritty. What I like about it is it's dark. They took Daredevil to a different place than some of the cheesy, campy comic books. For a while, Daredevil was pretty dark in the comic books, and they've kind of went that direction with it.
Which always seems to work.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I think it's pretty good. I'm only about 5 episodes in. I'm slow rolling it.
How many episodes are there?
I don't know. No idea. I just know I'm only 5 episodes in.
Also, before we go back to sports, back to basketball, what do you think of Jared Leto's Joker? You saw the picture that came out yesterday?
No, it looks pretty cool.
I think it's very interesting.
It looks pretty cool. The Joker wasn't part of the Suicide Squad, so I don't really know why he's in the Suicide Squad, but whatever.
I'm sure they'll make it work. I'm
sure they will.
Unless
he's the enemy that the Suicide Squad's going to go try to get.
That could be.
Because
here's the deal. Back in the early 2000s when they did comic book movies, it was very easy to mess them up.
Right.
But now these days, it's almost impossible to ruin. I mean, aside from the Green Lantern, it's almost impossible to ruin a comic book movie.
Yeah, there's a couple coming out that I'm really looking forward to.
Because there's so much going on that even if there's a part of it you don't like,
right,
the other parts of the movie make up for that part you don't like.
Right.
At least from what I gather. So, Toronto's Lou Williams wins the 6th Man of the Year. San Antonio's Kawhi Leonard is the Defensive Player of the Year. Get this, Perez, 23 years old. He's the 3rd player ever in NBA history with an NBA Finals MVP and Defensive Player of the Year award on his resume.
Good for him.
At 23.
Good for him.
I think San Antonio did a good thing getting him.
I agree.
Oklahoma City. We talked about this last week, but Oklahoma City pulls the trigger and fires head coach Scott Brooks. 332 and 207 in 7 years. Now, here's the deal, and this makes sense to me, Perez. It's not firing him for next year or the year after. It's firing him for the long term because guess what? Kevin Durant's a free agent after next year. They want to make Kevin Durant as happy as possible.
Right.
While they say players are not going to have any input in the head coach, you're telling me that Kevin Durant's not going to be able to help choose or help decide who the next head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder is going to be if he in turn decides to say?
Yeah, no, he will. Absolutely. The problem is that they give these people that much power to choose who their head coach is.
And he'll probably still end up walking because he'll either end up in New York with the Knicks or in Washington with the Wizards.
Right.
But the one name that's been coming up, UConn's Kevin Ollie. He said he's staying at UConn, but the rating's kind of on the wall. A lot of people think that he's going to go. He did play for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Kevin Durant has said, I believe it was Kevin Durant, said that when he came to Oklahoma City a handful of years ago, he was the glue that held the team together, that made the team grow, and everyone had to mature because of him.
Right.
And that's what they like about him. Speaking of the Atlanta Hawks, they were sold this week for $850 million to Anthony Ressler. That's Ressler.
Good for Anthony Ressler.
That's a lot of money.
That's a couple of dollars.
But the Atlanta Spirit Group, they're terrible people. And they're the ones that came out with the racist comments and all that stuff.
Right.
A lot of people think it was purposeful because the LA Clippers thing just happened and they needed a way out. And what's the best way out than to kind of racism yourself out the door, I guess is.
I'm going to show you a picture real quick.
Oh, God.
I'm flipping through the pictures on Twitter of the girl that I'm going to say hello to today.
Oh, man.
And this right here, this picture that I'm going to show you, would drive me absolute batty.
Okay, here we go.
What's wrong with that picture right there?
Oh, man. They messed the flooring up.
Yeah, but it's like one... Okay, so I'm showing him a picture of this tile floor with these a pattern in the tiles. And all the patterns are going exactly the same way, except for one tile in the middle of the floor is the opposite direction. That would drive me nuts. I would sell my house. Like, drive me nuts. Although I could probably just pull up the tile and flip it around.
Throw a carpet down.
Something. But yeah, dude, that would drive me nuts.
That would make me pretty mad. The Dallas Mavericks lose Rajon Rondo with a back injury, and Houston loses Chandler Parsons with a knee, out for the rest of their respective seasons. At least that's what it appears like. Right now, in the playoffs, Atlanta is up on Brooklyn 2-0. Cleveland has a 3-0 lead on Boston. Chicago 3-0 over Milwaukee. Washington currently pulling the upset on Toronto 3-0. Golden State over New Orleans 3-0. Houston over Dallas 3-0. San Antonio, you can't really say it's an upset, but seed-wise currently is an upset. They're upsetting the Clippers 2-1. And Portland losing to Memphis down 2-0.
If the Clips don't win that series, I'm going to be pissed.
I think that a lot of heads are going to roll if that happens.
I agree.
I don't know, though. I mean...
I think the Clips just need... They're one... I don't know. There's something missing. Like, they have all the talent in the world, but there's one role player away from... And you know what? Let's be completely honest with you. DeAndre Jordan knew how to hit some freaking free throws. It'd be a better team.
That's probably true.
So, yeah, that needs to happen. If I was his coach, he'd be shooting like 200 free throws, 300, 500, 600, 1,000. For real, free throws every practice until you become good. It's 10 feet away. You don't have anyone in your face. Make your freaking free throws.
That's fair. That's like Shaq when they hack a Shaq. Why do they hack a Shaq? Because
and that's what they're doing now. They're hacking DeAndre Jordan.
Learn how to make the free
8 minutes left in the game. You know,
it's strategy though, and if it works out, it works out. I mean, sometimes it blows up in their face, but other times it doesn't. Moving over to the National Hockey League now, as mentioned last week, the draft lottery took place last Saturday night.
Pittsburgh Steelers, Pittsburgh Penguins are pissing me off.
Oh, we'll talk about that in a second.
Just saying.
For the fourth time in 6 years, the Edmonton Oilers will select first overall.
How'd that even happen?
Well, I'll explain right now. 5, 14, and 6 were the first 3 lottery balls selected, which means Toronto had 4 shots at Connor McDavid. Buffalo 3, Edmonton 2, Carolina and Columbus had 1 each. With that perspective, I'm glad Edmonton won, because if Buffalo wasn't going to win, which again, 20% shot, not very likely, 1 in 5 chance that it could happen, I'm glad Toronto didn't end up with him. Just me personally.
Right.
But I do want to say, you know, it is kind of bad for business that it's always good when you get young talent spread out through the National Hockey League. A lot of young talent is being hoarded in Edmonton right now, which, I mean, it's a lottery. It's the luck of the draw. But
you would think they'd go to a system where like the worst team gets to pick first.
Well, right now they're going next year. They're switching to a system where the first 3 picks are determined by lottery. So if you finish last, you're not guaranteed first or second. So essentially, they're trying to discourage tanking, but they're also making it where, hey, you finish 7th, you might get the first pick. But that's how it always is.
That's just crazy to me.
It's lottery.
I know.
But before we move on to more stuff in the National Hockey League, last week on SabresHockeyCentral.com through the YouTube channel, I recorded a podcast with Jack Goods of Die by the Blade, and you'll hear him and myself, and it's more me than him, but still, he's there. I want to say thank you again to him for helping me out. My reaction to Edmonton being selected the winners of the NHL Draft Lottery. And it sounds a little choppy. I do apologize, but it was like 5 minutes of audio cut down into 25 seconds or something like that. So bear with me. Listen. Enjoy. It is quite humorous.
David's either going to be in the Western Conference or McDavid's going to be in Buffalo.
Oh, man, that's perfect.
Oh, my God. Don't be Edmonton. Don't be Edmonton. What? You have got to be kidding me. That's garbage. Well, that sucks. Damn it, man. He looks so excited to be going to Edmonton.
So, Perez, it's safe to say that I was not very pleased with Edmonton getting the first overall pick, but
Understandably so.
yeah, but looking back at it now, I calmed down real quick,
Right.
Because Jack Eichel's coming to Buffalo,
Okay.
and he is going to be the face of United States hockey for the next 15 plus years,
Nice.
and that's going to be awesome.
Right.
To follow a guy through the season, and then granted, if they end up going to the Olympics, because it doesn't sound like that National Hockey League is going to the next Olympics just because they're in South Korea, and that's it seems kind of dangerous to do that.
Why?
That's what Gary Bettman's been saying.
It's South Korea.
I don't know. I mean, maybe because it's close to North Korea.
All them scary hockey dudes are scared of all those little Asian people.
It's not the hockey dudes. It's the people who make the money from the hockey players. But if Eichel doesn't go, if they don't go to the Olympics, Eichel ends up going to the World Championships, and we get to watch Jack Eichel lead Team USA to some World Championships. Either way, going to be a whole hell of a lot of fun to be a Buffalo Sabres fan very shortly.
No doubt.
San Jose and their head coach Todd McClellan mutually part ways. McClellan was 311, 163, and 66 in 7 years. Phenomenal coach.
Right.
Just one of those situations where, the joke on Twitter, and I apologize to who said it, because I should have wrote down who said it. I apologize if I find the credit. I'll make sure to throw it your way. But there was a joke on Twitter this week where it was San Jose saying, Todd, it's not you, it's us. And then Todd responds, you're right, it is you. It's the truth. I mean, San Jose is a talented hockey team, but the problem is they're trying to rebuild, but they don't want to call it a rebuild, so they're going to keep all the really good players and just kind of keep plugging guys in here and there. And
Right.
it sounds to me like the general manager, Doug Wilson, doesn't really know how to transition the team from really good, talented old guys to really talented young guys without completely blowing it up. And that's what makes, you look at a team like the Detroit Red Wings. They've been doing it for 20 years. They went from guys that were old to guys that were young to guys that are now old. I mean, they're hitting the end of the line again where they don't have young guys to fill those holes, but it's, a 20-year run, that's pretty good. And that's what
pretty good.
San Jose was. San Jose was headed that way, but unfortunately, it looks like they're stepping back a little. But Todd McClellan should get hired anywhere in the National Hockey League, honestly, and wherever he goes, he'll be very good.
Yeah.
The Buffalo Sabres signed Boston University forward Evan Rodriguez. Obviously, you look at Boston University, look at Jack Eichel. He was Jack Eichel's winger this season.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
61 points, 21 goals, 40 assists last year. He's expected, I'm assuming, he'll probably play with someone like Eichel in training camp and in the summer prospect camp, but I'm not sure. A lot of people say he's a smart hockey player, but I think his name is Steve. I can't remember. I'll have to look his name up really quick. A Boston University assistant coach spoke to the 716 podcast, sports podcast in Buffalo. I'm trying to get this guy's name. Sorry, I'm trying to get the correct name. I don't want to say the wrong name.
Well, obviously, we don't want to have
Steve
that happen.
Greeley.
Okay.
Steve Greeley of Boston University, an ex-Los Angeles Kings scout. He said that Rodriguez is a very smart hockey player, one of the smartest you'll see on the ice. But there's a lot of development to happen, but there's no doubt in his mind there's a lot of hockey ahead of the kid. So he'll probably end up being a body in Rochester, but with the prospect pool in Rochester, that may be a lot of fun to watch.
Right.
Unrestricted.
Hopefully, Rochester hockey sometimes is, Rochester hockey.
Here's a teaser. Stick around for a few more minutes. You get to hear some about Rochester hockey from WGR's Matthew Coller. Talk about a teaser. Cliffhanger.
Yeah. I'm anticipating
I don't think you knew where you wanted to go with that one.
I did, and I forgot the word.
I watched the words come from your brain to your mouth, and as they got to your eyes, you just lost it, and you were like,
Yeah, I completely forgotten the word I was going to say at first.
It's okay. Unrestricted free agent defenseman Hal Gill retires. 1,108 games, 184 points in his career, 36 goals, 148 assists. He was a key part of the Penguins' run to the Cup a handful of years ago. A big name, veteran name. I'm sure he'll be missed in the world of hockey. The Edmonton Oilers name ex-Boston Bruins GM Peter Chiarelli, president of hockey operations and their general manager. Now, I believe last week, Perez, when we said that Chiarelli got fired, I said he won't be out of a job for very long.
Right.
If I didn't say it on the podcast, I know I said it to at some point in time. Well, guess what? He wasn't out of a job very long. And he got a promotion.
That's always a good thing.
Well, the Oilers get rid of Craig McTavish. He's not going to get fired, but he'll get moved somewhere in the organization. But Chiarelli now obviously is the president of hockey operations and the GM, so he is his boss, his own boss essentially, because the president of hockey ops is the GM's boss, but obviously he's the same guy, so whatever. Right. I expect, here's a little prediction I'm going to throw out there.
Okay.
Dougie Hamilton is a restricted free agent for the Boston Bruins, a guy that Peter Chiarelli drafted. Edmonton Oilers are in dire need of defensemen, good defensemen. Dougie Hamilton's not bad at hockey. I expect Edmonton to... I can't think of the word. I completely forgot it. I expect Edmonton to...
Apparently this morning we're struggling with words.
I just blanked. I'm expecting Edmonton to explore. That's what I was looking for. They're going to at least explore, if not make a restricted or an offer on Dougie Hamilton and RFA, which if they don't match it, you just send draft picks depending on what they tendered him as. But I think that might happen for sure.
Okay.
Playoff update now. Minnesota last night beats the Blues. They are up 3-2 in that series. Nashville crushes Chicago, but Chicago still leads 3-2 in that series. Anaheim sweeps Winnipeg 4-0. Calgary lost their last game against Vancouver, but they're still looking to pull the upset on the Canucks. It's a 3-2 lead right now for Calgary in that series. Ottawa has won 2 straight, but Montreal still leads the series 3-2. Tampa Bay with a very, very huge. I cannot say how huge that win was in Detroit for Tampa Bay. That's how huge it was. They tie that series up 2-2, going back to Tampa Bay. Scary part about it is Tampa has stayed in the series, but Steven Stamkos has been nowhere to be found. So if Stamkos shows up, Detroit's probably in trouble. That's also another impressive thing that you'll hear Matthew Coller talk about next segment, is Detroit is able to take nothing and turn it into something. They have a team that probably shouldn't be in the playoffs, that probably shouldn't be where they are right now.
Right.
And Mike Babcock has coached them up, which is
impressive.
Very impressive.
Yes.
Washington and the Islanders, 3-2 in that series. Washington has the advantage. And sorry, Perez, but last night the New York Rangers, expected to head to the Stanley Cup Finals for the second straight year, beat the Pittsburgh Penguins and closed out that series 4-1. Moving over to Major League Baseball. I'm just going to move over because I don't want you to get mad. We'll talk about the Penguins later. Moving over to Major League Baseball now. The New York Mets, who just had their 11-game win streak snapped yesterday on Friday against the New York Yankees. Very impressive. They lose Travis d'Arnaud, a catcher, to a fractured hand, and pitcher Jerry Blevins to a broken arm. Atlanta Braves pitcher Andrew McKirahan suspended 80 games.
Dude, listen.
Uh-oh.
If you had told me that the Yankees would go on a run where they won 7-8 and are like 3 above 500.
Can I just tell you it's April?
I'm just saying. Hold on.
I know, it's very impressive.
I'm just saying, like, I never would have thought that was going to happen. I thought the Yankees would have win like 5 games this entire season.
The Yankees go 5-157 this year.
Right. They, breaking the Mets 11-game win streak. That's
impressive. I mean, it's bound to happen. The Yankees you have to win some games.
Sometime.
You can't win them all, but over the season, it's going to be interesting to see how they hold up because I don't think they were built for the long haul. Guys are going to get cold. When they get cold, it's going to be ugly.
Oh, it's going to be real ugly.
But we'll see. I mean, like the Red Sox right now, you've got pitching is not good, hitting's not good, but they're still winning games. So when it all comes together in May or June, and they go on a stretch, what's going to happen? And how are guys going to heat up and how are things going to work out?
Right.
That's the best part about baseball. The 162 games, so a week's not going to completely sink your season. Or a week or two is not going to sink your season.
Right.
As mentioned, Atlanta Braves pitcher Andrew McKirahan suspended 80 games. He tested positive for Ipamarelin, I think is how you pronounce it.
Sure.
Ipamarelin, I guess is what we'll say. It produces a growth hormone. Which
There's so many growth freaking hormones out there.
Hey, as Alice Cooper once said, hey, stupid. Yeah, exactly. Don't do that. Just don't do that, moron. Anyways.
Not smart.
Report out of Miami says the Marlins could fire manager Mike Redmond if the results don't improve. His current record is 6-11. Obviously, they spent some cash this offseason to make that team better. They made some trades as well. I don't necessarily think that firing Mike Redmond's the right option or the right choice at this point, but the ownership and management in Miami doesn't really seem to be too smart.
No. Big yawn. It's okay.
Yeah. I'm running on E for some reason. I woke up at 7 o'clock this morning.
I did not.
I'm almost up for 4 hours right now.
I woke up at 7:45.
Well, look at you. I woke up at 7 and got out of bed at 8, so I guess we're on the same page today.
Yeah, my dog was straight up barking at the back door. My wife was already gone because she's volunteering for a race today. And, yeah, my dog was straight up barking at the back door. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
So Lewis.
Yes.
In preseason,
we
talked about, or I should say spring training. In spring training, we talked about our favorite things.
Yes.
What is our one favorite thing about spring training?
All the crazy people getting hurt. The ways
I'm glad you picked up on that one because I'm very happy.
Yeah,
because the next story I have, crazy injury.
Awesome.
Scooter Gennett, second baseman, Milwaukee Brewers, on the 15-day DL with a stitched-up hand because he cut his hand open in the shower.
How the bloody blue Hades you cut your hand open in the shower?
You know in the hotel rooms they have the metal. I think it was a hotel room. It might have been his house, but they have the metal. Some of them have the metal shower racks.
Yes.
Apparently he went to go grab his body wash off the metal shower rack and punched it and busted his hand open.
Yeah, that's awesome.
There's a picture on Twitter, I believe, if you go check it out. But how do you do that?
I have no idea. I don't got anything for you, bro.
I was gonna make a funny joke about how he may have been servicing himself.
Right.
But then I saw the knuckle and I'm like, well, he probably did accidentally punch something.
Nice.
Sports injuries are dumb and hilarious.
That's hilarious. That is truly hilarious.
Did you catch the video this week from Cincinnati Reds manager Brian Price?
I don't know.
Posted up on Gear Network's Facebook, facebook.com/Gear Network.
Okay.
77 F-bombs.
That's a lot of F-bombs.
He was livid.
I guess
All
so.
because a media member reported that Devin Mesoraco was not at the stadium. So he was just mad because he's like, well, why are you going to try to do that? And when you report that Devin Mesoraco is not at the stadium, you're hurting us.
Right.
Because they know he's not here.
Right.
Which is true. But going off in the media, probably not the smartest of ideas.
No. Not a little bit.
So yeah, Perez, if you want to check that out, feel free. I was going to play it in the podcast, but it's like 5 minutes long. And
that's a lot of F-bombs, bro.
It's 5 minutes of F-bombs, so it's pretty funny. Moving on now. After 9 years of being inactive, New York Yankee outfielder Bernie Williams finally files for retirement. I don't know what took him so long, but congratulations.
So what you're telling me is that Bernie Williams has actually not been retired for the last 9 years?
No. Because you can say you're retired, but until you file the paperwork that says you're retired, you're not retired.
That's crazy.
So he could have signed with the Yankees or something, and
he's just been out there playing guitar.
Major league free agent.
Dude, that's awesome.
Whatever makes you happy, right?
I'm glad that he finally decided to actually officially retire.
Exactly. Yeah.
You had an awesome career. You had a crappy batting average these last 9 years, but before that, you had an awesome career.
I would have been a smart ass and just came in and got a hit and said, "Hey, these last 9 years, I'm batting 1,000."
No doubt.
Detroit pitcher Joe Nathan tears his UCL and flexor pronator, expected to miss for what I read at least 12 to 18 months. And he vows to return. He's an older guy. He's in his 30s, late 30s, but he said he's coming back.
Is he?
Second Tommy John surgery for Joe Nathan. He was rehabbing an elbow issue, I believe, in the offseason. And he said he's coming back. I don't put the without a shadow of a doubt. I don't doubt him at all. I guess I'm just using the wrong words. I don't know. Whatever.
He should come back.
Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, the pieces of crap they are, finally have decided to rid themselves of Josh Hamilton. But they did the right thing.
Bye, Josh.
They're sending him back to Texas.
Yes.
Where he should have stayed the whole time.
Yeah, he should have left.
There's reports that Los Angeles will pay $65 million of the $80 million remaining on his deal, as if that tells you how bad they want to get rid of him.
No doubt.
But
that's crazy.
Hopefully he gets things turned around and gets things figured out.
He got all the talent in the world, man, and he's
got too many. He's got skeletons in his closet.
Yep.
It shows you that addiction is a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. And if anything, you would hope that the Angels would stand behind him and say, we've got your back.
Right.
But they said pretty much, don't let the door hit you.
It's true. That's too bad.
It sucks. But hopefully he turns around in Texas, because Texas could use it. Josh Hamilton could use it. But if nothing else, if Josh Hamilton is never a good baseball player again, just get yourself right.
Yeah, he has to.
Don't worry about baseball. Get yourself right first.
That's important.
Baseball is just a game.
It's a true story.
And you're going to get paid anyways.
That's a true story.
But it's just a game. Last thing before we go to commercial break, the Gear Guy. An update. I was kind of confused this week because they've had some games down in Chattanooga delayed or pushed back, switched around because of cold weather, because it's been freezing cold everywhere the past couple days.
Right.
Past week, really. So he pitched midweek, where he pitched last Friday, pitched midweek, just the way the rotation fell. Jose Barrios charged with a loss, so he's 1-1 on the season. 5 innings pitched, 8 hits, 4 runs, 3 of them earned, no walks. He did hit a batter and had 3 strikeouts. But last week we'd mentioned his control was a little off. It was around 50 to 60% of his pitches thrown were strikes.
Right.
A lot better this week. 83 pitches, 58 were for strikes. So
he was just a little off.
He's getting there. He's getting back there. He's learning. It's fun every week to follow what he does, because not only is it just cool in the sense of we're following a young kid making his way up to the major leagues, but you can kind of see the development, like just by the stats, just by watching and saying, okay, well, this week he had 11 strikeouts, next week he allowed 5 runs or whatever. You can kind of pick and choose and go, okay, well, you can tell he's getting a little better with this, a little better with that. Plus, you can read the reports from people, talk to people in the know, and maybe we'll do that sometime next couple weeks. Maybe after about a month or so, we'll get 5 or 6 starts in the book. We'll get someone on from Chattanooga to talk about Jose Barrios and
that'd be fun.
In the Minnesota Twins.
That'd be fun. Speaking of baseball, real quick, hold on a second before we go to commercial break. Hey, did you see the game this week where Jose Bautista got the ball thrown behind him?
Oh yeah.
Did you see what he did after that?
Hit a massive jack.
Dude, he hit that ball like 450 feet. Now, let me get your opinion on something. Because people will say that you shouldn't show up the pitcher.
Oh, God. You know what? There's one thing. I'm just going to cut you off right there, because I know exactly where you're going with this. I love it when David Ortiz does it, because it's well-deserved.
Right.
Like when Chris Archer last year got pissed that David Ortiz was flipping his bat. The next time he hit a home run, David Ortiz stood there and watched the ball and waited till it landed before he ran around the bases. Jose Bautista should have crawled around the bases with both middle fingers up in the air.
Dude, I mean, first of all,
that's the best way in all of baseball to show up a pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, you tried to hit the guy.
Yeah.
And you missed him. So don't be mad at him because he stood there and watched the ball until it left the park. Personally, he could have stood there, watched the ball, went to the dugout, grabbed his phone, pulled up the replay on the MLB app, watched that.
Took a selfie.
Right, and then trotted around the bases, and I would have been okay with it. That was awesome.
Also, what do you think about the Kansas City Royals? Very fiery baseball team.
Dude, they're not playing around.
They are not.
I mean, first of all, they're winning a ton of games, but they're just. I
believe the name is Giordano Ventura.
Yes,
the pitcher's name.
Yes. The White Sox just played beanball the entire time.
A comebacker hit directly at the pitcher. Adam Eaton hit it at the pitcher, which it is what it is. You can't aim at a pitcher when you hit the ball. But Ventura You could clearly as day watch him say it as he has the ball. He walks towards first base, looks at him and goes, F you, throws it to first, and all hell breaks loose.
Yes. Yeah, dude.
And it was like the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, they're a very fiery team this year.
A lot of fun.
I'm loving it.
A lot of swagger from that baseball team.
Absolutely.
With that being said, this is the news you need to know.
Now you know it.
When we come back from commercial break, an interview with WGR's Matthew Coller talking Amherst, talking Sabres, Jack Eichel. Stick around. More of the Better Live Than Dead podcast right after this.
While you're listening to this podcast, make sure you follow us on social media. You can follow me at WolfSHC on Twitter. You can also follow Mr. Perez at MRLG Perez. Make sure to like the podcast on Facebook. That's facebook.com/BLTD Podcast. And make sure to follow Gear Network on Twitter at GERE Network.
This free and independent sportscast is made possible when you shop the Gear Network store through Amazon. Visit GearNetwork.com and click on the Amazon banner to shop through Amazon's thousands of products at great prices delivered right to your front door. Again, that's GearNetwork.com and click the Amazon banner at the top.
You're listening to Better Live Than Dead on the Gear Radio Network.
Back here on the Better Live Than Dead podcast. Joining me live now on the FanDuel hotline, he is Matthew Coller of WGR 550 at Matthew WGR on Twitter. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I am excellent. Thank you for joining me on this early Saturday morning. But I know you're good for it, so I know you're awake.
Well, I mean, I get up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning to be on the WGR morning show by 6. So, I mean, 9 o'clock, man, I've been up for like 3 hours.
It's like afternoon. It's like lunchtime right now for you.
Exactly.
Now, I wanted to start off with the Americans, the Rochester Americans. It's another playoff-less season for them, so obviously it's a disappointment. But do you believe that head coach Chad Cassidy's job is currently in jeopardy?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it's hard to say exactly what Tim Murray's plan will be. I mean, it's almost like Tim Murray's been around long enough where we forget how new he is, that he's been here just a year and a half, and we don't really have a great feel for him yet. So I couldn't say for sure one way or the other what he's thinking about Chad Cassidy, but I think from his standpoint, he's focusing on one thing and one thing only, and that's player development. I don't think he's worrying as much about whether they make the playoffs, and if he was paying attention at all, he would see the reasons they didn't make the playoffs. I mean, for one, he put two inexperienced goaltenders there. Matt Hackett with more experience than Andrei Makarov, but Matt Hackett was not very good, and Makarov is really young, started the season at just 21 years old, playing in the AHL maybe was a little above his head to be a regular goaltender, and they struggled for half of the season, even though the Amherst were one of the highest-scoring teams. And then after they traded Joel Armia and moved Mikhail Grigorenko and Johan Larsson and everybody else up to the NHL, Zach Dalpe was another guy who was scoring for the Amherst and was moved up. Then they were unable to win many games down the stretch, and they end up with a really bad season. But from a player development standpoint, I don't think they get the Evander Kane trade done if Chad Cassidy doesn't work with Joel Armia and see him make a lot of progress this year. Armia caught a lot of eyes after having a very tough first season in the AHL. His second year, he improved a great deal. And just Mark Pasick has improved. Rasmus Ristolainen took big steps last year when he was in the AHL under Cassidy. And plus, the Amherst had made the playoffs the last 2 years before this, and Cassidy in his first full season as an NHL coach an AHL coach had made the playoffs last year. So I think from Murray's standpoint, what he really wanted to get done was see young players making progress, and that happened. And missing the playoffs was more to do with who Tim Murray put on the ice for him, especially in goal, than it was about Chad Cassidy's coaching. So I would kind of guess that he's going to be back. But you never know. I mean, Tim Murray takes a GM job, and he might have already had somebody lined up that he thought was going to take that position. And since they were one of the worst teams in the AHL record-wise, he would have an excuse.
Now, looking at the Amherst themselves, obviously, as you mentioned, a handful of players, and as we know, a handful of players ended up in Buffalo this season, so there were a lot of different faces in and out of Rochester. But what players disappointed you and didn't really fit the bill, live up to the hype, if you will, this season in Rochester?
Well, Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess in terms of the veteran players they brought in, I was a little disappointed in just the caliber of players they'd had. They weren't as good as some in the past. I mean, when they were making the playoffs, you saw a lot of veteran players scoring 20 to 30 goals for the team and then putting a few young players around them. I thought this year some young players were a little above their head. But it's hard to say. I mean, Mikhail Grigorenko, from a scoring standpoint in Rochester, had a pretty decent season considering his age. I think, I don't know if I would say disappointed because my expectations weren't that high for him coming in, especially from how he had played in Buffalo before he was assigned to Rochester. It was not very good results overall in the first 2 years in the NHL. I would say that his progress maybe slowed down at times and sped up. I mean, I guess you get that toward the end of the year, it sped up a little bit more. You get that with young players. So I'm not sure I would say anybody was a particular disappointment other than, I mean, the team as a whole didn't perform the way they wanted them to. But Grigorenko is the one that got the most focus for his ups and downs. And I was still more down on him than up. But considering the point production that he had at the end of the year, I think if you told everybody at the beginning of the year that he would produce at a decent rate in Rochester, they might even be surprised considering that he did very little in the NHL before that. But other guys, Mark Pesic probably should have been in the NHL the entire year but kept playing hard all the way through the end of the season. Jake McCabe took some big steps forward in the middle of the year, and that was impressive. And Johan Larsson was just Johan Larsson. He was very good for the second straight year in a row in Rochester and finally got a chance to prove he could play in Buffalo. I mean, from a young player standpoint, I think all of the young players did exactly what the organization would want them to do, which was take steps forward. In terms of just coming up short of expectations, like I mentioned, the goaltenders. I mean, I think after the end of the year last season, where Andrei Makarov got hot at the end of the season and carried the Amherst to the playoffs in the last 10 games, I think people expected more from him. I didn't necessarily, but I think that maybe Amherst fans probably expected him to emerge as a top goalie, and he really didn't do that this year.
Now, during the season, we saw Tim Murray in Rochester a few times, and he had made mention that he wants to focus more on the Rochester Americans this offseason. Do you expect big changes in terms of maybe they'll bring in some high-priced AHL free agents, or they'll make sure that the weaknesses turn into positives for next season for the Amherst?
Well, I think there's a few things that they need to do for sure, because you're going to have some really valuable property there in Rochester next year. I still think that there's a good chance that Sam Reinhart ends up playing in Rochester for maybe half the season or something like that. But you're also going to have Nick Baptiste, who's a fairly highly thought-of prospect, third-round pick who is playing alongside Connor McDavid this year in Erie. You're going to have Justin Bailey, who had a great season in junior this year and has sort of risen up the ranks a bit, if you will, with the Sabres organization after having a good season this year. So those two guys are going to be there, along with the possibility of Reinhart. Jake McCabe could be back there. So I think that what they really need to do is find some better quality veterans to put on the roster around these guys. I thought that they just didn't do a very good job of that this year, and including the possibility of a veteran goaltender, too. You're going to have Linus Ullmark coming over from Sweden, is likely to be the starter, and maybe Andrei Makarov is there with him. I don't like having two goaltenders that are that young playing on an AHL roster. I would much prefer having one veteran and one young guy and whoever else in the ECHL, and then see if you can get them some starts here and there, the younger player from the ECHL. But I think the biggest thing is seeking out free agents, like you mentioned, and finding just a couple of really high-caliber players. When they made the playoffs the last 2 years, going back, 2 years ago they had Mark Mancari, who's like an AHL legend, right? I mean, you can mark him down for 30 goals in the AHL every single year. And last year they had Jamie Tardif and Kevin Porter, who are two terrific AHL players. And, this year they just really didn't have that. So I think that you're right in saying that they need to look for a couple of guys that are AHL veterans that they can bring in that will not only set the standard for the locker room, but also score too. I mean, they had a lot of guys who were class players and who had been around and high character guys to help the locker room, but maybe who just weren't that effective in terms of playing anymore. And I think that was problematic for the team overall. So, yeah, I definitely think that there's improvement to be had in seeking out some AHL veterans.
Now, one last question about the Amherst before we move on to the Buffalo Sabres. Is there any update on the health of Amherst goaltender Nathan Lewin?
Not recently, no. As far as I know, it's wait and see with Nathan Lewin. It was a really unfortunate situation. And talking about, the coach and how he plays into it, they lost a bunch of games because Nathan Lewin wasn't telling them that he was still suffering from post-concussion symptoms. I mean, Lewin performed very poorly because he was having trouble with his eyesight. And, I mean, I don't know how you blame the coach for that, by the way. I mean, that's just as an aside. But Lewin showed a lot of potential 2 years ago, and Tim Murray had mentioned multiple times that he really liked his height, his athleticism, and he was one of the top goaltenders in the league, and then suffered a concussion late in the season 2 years ago, and it seems never really got over it. And he's also got a history of concussions that almost forced him to quit hockey a while back. So I don't know if this could be a career-ending thing for Lewin. He was still around the team all the way to the end of the year. I don't know if that's a good sign or not, but I guess I would take it as one. And we'll see where he comes back in training camp and in the off season. But I guess as far as where he lands, I mean, I was talking about the goaltending and kind of put him off to the side because it's such a big question mark. He is one of the nicest people that I've ever covered in hockey, and I really hope that he's able to come back because he's a good kid and works really hard and has a lot of potential. But if it has anything to do with risking his long-term health, he should hang him up, I think. So we'll see what happens. I know that he badly wants to get back on the ice, I'm sure, and I'm certain that he believes he can be an NHL goaltender. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see where it comes out in training camp. Whenever prospect camp comes up in mid-July might be the first sign we get to see of whether he's back to health or not.
Now, if you're just joining me right now in the FanDuel hotline, Matthew Coller of WGR 550, at Matthew WGR on Twitter. Now, Matt, you mentioned Mikhail Grigorenko. The question I have for you, he's a restricted free agent this offseason. Obviously, we know that the next contract he signs is going to be a one-way deal. Where do you see him fitting into the Buffalo Sabres plans next season?
I kind of don't. I think that the best option with Grigorenko is probably a trade. Unless they have plans to move him to wing and just hope that he's ready to play in the NHL this year. There were some steps of progress in his NHL play, but I didn't think it was anywhere close to being a quality NHL player at the end. I know he scored a couple of goals. One was a nice goal. The other one was a batted puck that for some reason Cam Ward couldn't catch because he's Cam Ward. I mean, from a shift-to-shift basis in the NHL, it always seemed that Mikhail Grigorenko had a tough time just competing and playing hard and skating hard. Even 50, 60 games into his NHL experience, in 3 years as a pro, there was just simple things that were happening on the ice where he just wouldn't battle for a 50-50 puck, wouldn't race to it, wouldn't compete for it, and completely losing his man on defense, not really paying attention in the defensive zone, which we knew that he was going to have some defensive struggles, but there were times where you just sort of looked and went, I can't believe this guy has played 3 years pro. And I know that it was an unfair situation his first season, but he's been around enough to know not to just completely lose his man in the defensive zone. And, he did, like I mentioned, he scored in the AHL. He had 36 points in 43 games, which would be enough to say, well, at least there's some scoring potential there, but I just don't see where he fits in. I mean, you're going to have Sam Reinhart there eventually, whether it's at the beginning of the year or later on. You've got Zemgus Girgensons, who clearly can play center in the NHL and be a quality player, and Jack Eichel is going to step right in, there's no question, and play one of the top two center spots. I don't see where he fits in as a center, especially since Johan Larsson really emerged as a quality player at the end of the season. And at the wing, I don't know. I mean, maybe he could be a playmaker on the wing. I've talked to some NHL people who think that's possible, but you've got to compete hard enough to play every night in the NHL, and I'm just not sure that that's there with him. So I wouldn't be surprised if Grigorenko is involved in a draft day deal. Tim Murray has already mentioned that that's a possibility. not with him in particular, but that there will be trades on draft day. They've got a late first-round pick to work with. They've got other assets to work with. I'm thinking that Tim Murray wants to win next year, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if they use Grigorenko as a trade chip, especially because, like you mentioned, his contract situation is a little complicated because if they sign him to a deal, he will have to go through waivers to go back down to the AHL, and he'll certainly get picked up if he goes through waivers.
Now, you mentioned Jack Eichel, and obviously for those Sabres fans who have been living under a rock, I should say, the Sabres have the second overall pick in the entry-level draft coming up in June, so likely they'll end up with Jack Eichel. I'm just going to ask you a very broad question here. What's not to like about Jack Eichel?
I don't know if I've heard anything that's not to like about Jack Eichel yet. I mean, that's the reason that it was so important to get to 30th place, right, is because Jack Eichel is a top-level prospect, and every time you hear, well, he's not quite as good as Connor McDavid, I mean, you should sort of, I don't know, it's almost like it knocks him down a couple of more pegs than he deserves to be knocked down. What he accomplished in college hockey, scoring 71 points this year, if you look at recent history, even with great players, Thomas Vanek and Zach Parise, and even Jonathan Taves, and what they did in college compared to what Jack Eichel did, Eichel blows their point production away. And then when you watch him play, he really is the total package. I mean, he's a playmaker that can slow the game down if he wants. He's got a good shot that some people say is even better than McDavid's. And he is a powerful and blazing fast skater. And the other thing that I noticed, too, and what we were interviewing on WGR, his coach, David Quinn from BU, and what he said is that what people don't know about Jack Eichel is just how competitive he really is. And, I mean, you put all those things in a pot, and you have a lot of trouble finding any holes to punch in that. If he's a competitor, he's a skater, he's a scorer, a playmaker, and I don't know. I mean, it's not like he's going to be the greatest player of all time or a perfect hockey player, especially his first year. There's sometimes that I felt watching him in the Frozen Four that he ran around a little bit. He tried way too hard and got himself out of position to run around and get the puck all the time. But, I mean, those are things that can be sorted out through his development. And, I mean, I don't know what the expectations are from people. They probably vary wildly from his first year, but I expect him to make an impact right away on the Sabres roster. And as far as a weakness, it's just inexperience. That's it. That's the only weakness I can come up with, is that he just hasn't played at the NHL level yet, and he's going to have to make adjustments and grow from there.
Last question for you, Matt, and we'll let you go on this one. Gun to your head right now, make a prediction. Who will be the Buffalo Sabres head coach next season?
It's a really tough question because you have to get inside of Tim Murray's head, or put a gun to his head, if you would say, and get him to tell you who he thinks is going to be the next coach. It's a great conversation piece to have because there are so many options out there with a couple of very experienced and big-name coaches, and Todd McClellan, Dan Bilesma, and then even Mike Babcock that's been talked about ad nauseum during the playoffs with, Babcock still coaching Detroit but becoming a free agent. And, I still think it's a very attractive destination in Buffalo for somebody like Mike Babcock or McClellan or Bilesma, a big name. You get to coach a top-notch talent, or a couple of them, really, a couple top 10 draft picks, number 2 overall draft picks, and then, a prospect system that's pretty solid coming up, too. It's hard to say who it's going to be exactly, but, I look at the Buffalo Bills, and I see Rex Ryan as the head coach, and I think, I don't know if I really buy into the idea that it's going to be somebody from the AHL like Luke Richardson, whose name gets thrown around all the time. Luke Richardson, this guy is Murray's buddy. Well, he might be Murray's buddy, but the owners are the one who ultimately sign off on this. And I think it became really apparent in the Rex Ryan signing, or hiring, that the Pagulas are going to be very involved with who becomes the next coach of the Sabres. I mean, they were flying coaches down to their house, football coaches, to hire them this off season. So it's like, okay, if they're flying coaches down to Florida to meet with them and they're hiring the biggest name out there in Rex Ryan, are they really going to sign off on an AHL coach? I mean, I just find that hard to believe. So I would look at all of the big names, and I expect them all to be interviewed by the Sabres. And if it's McClellan, I really like that. I know he hasn't won a Stanley Cup. People don't need to tell me that, but I think his record is really impressive, and he's a very smart coach. And obviously anyone would want Mike Babcock to be their coach. And you can see it with an inferior Detroit roster still giving fits to Tampa Bay with matchups and strategy and things like that. And I think that he would be perfect, but I wouldn't put a high percentage on that. So it's going to be fun to watch as this goes along. But, like I said about Murray, we're still sort of feeling him out as the general manager of this team. And, until we, I guess, get a better handle of how he thinks and the decisions that he makes, it'll be a little bit hard to predict. So I guess we'll see.
Ladies and gentlemen, he is Matthew Coller at MatthewWGR on Twitter. You can check him out, WGR550. He's pretty much there all the time. If not, you can go on the internet and read some stories he's written. Also very good. I want to say thank you again for joining us today, man, and we look forward to having you down the road. I mean, there's a lot more hockey happening. We've got a little bit of a lull at this point.
Yeah, we do. Well, the coach search will be fun to watch, and so will the playoffs. So I appreciate you having me on.
Hey, Don, how's it going?
Living the dream. I'm actually just getting ready to do this commercial.
Oh, you mean the commercial where I tell our listeners to tune into Gear Network every week to listen to our show, Get Ready America, that one?
Yeah, John, that's the one.
They can also listen to us talk about news, sports, whatever's on our minds, that...
And a little what's on our listeners' minds, but they're just too nice to say it.
Well, that, Dawn, is a real humdinger. Come join us this and every week for Get Ready America exclusively on the Gear Radio Network.
And the Gear Network app.
A successful product does not become a successful product on its own. Look at the Gear Radio Network, for example. We're a prime example. We had a lot of help getting here, and we can help you get where you want to go to. Advertising rates are very low to start off here on the Gear Radio Network. Visit us at gearnetwork.com. Click on the contact link to send us an email, and we can work out the details. Again, advertise your product across all of the forums at a low rate here on the Gear Radio Network.
What's up, guys? This is Paul Wagner, guitar player for Between the Buried and Me, and you're listening to Better Live Than Dead.
Back on the Better Live Than Dead podcast. I don't like how it came back to commercial day.
You don't like how you want to retry it?
I just yelled.
You just want to...
I don't know.
All right, so hold on a second. Okay. 3, 2, 1, and welcome back to
Ladies and
Better
gentlemen,
Live
welcome
Than
to
Dead.
the podcast. I like that better. 40. Episode 40.
That's right, episode 4.
Can you believe 12 more episodes? Now, it won't be our 1 year exactly because I did a few extra here and there, but
right.
Because we did a couple previews and just a couple here and there. But anyways, 52 episodes. It's coming up.
Crazy.
We're almost there.
Crazy.
Would you ever believe that we would have done this for 52 episodes?
It doesn't feel like we've done it for 40.
No, it doesn't. It feels kind of ridiculous, actually.
It's cool.
But then again, you think about it. We've had that's almost like, I mean, obviously, as mentioned, there were a couple podcasts where we had interviews or whatever. But that's 40 hours of content that we've more like probably 50 because we talk so goddamn.
We talk a lot, yeah.
So a lot of content we put out there.
Yeah.
And we thank everybody. I know we're getting kind of emotional over here.
And it's funny because if we put up everything that we talked about, like sometimes when we're in the commercial breaks, like it would be even longer.
We probably wouldn't be on the air.
Probably not. It'd be funny. It'd be like a Get Ready America Uncensored.
It might be that times something exactly. Times 10. It's we get a little fiery in the commercial break sometimes. There's some days where Perez walks in and you can see the steam coming off his head. And
right.
You're like, oh.
Yes.
Hit me with what you got.
I was listening to Get Ready America yesterday with your brother and Save Your Fate, and it was quite a humorous episode.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah, absolutely.
It made me chuckle.
Yeah, they do a good job over there at Get Ready America.
I will say this: listening to the foot fetish portion of it, your brother seemed really uncomfortable.
Oh yeah,
with his friend who has a foot fetish.
It's very funny because my brother will. He doesn't get uncomfortable at many things. Right. But when he gets uncomfortable, it is blatantly obvious.
Yeah, very blatantly obvious. And it's funny because, we'd have to be talking about some really, really raunchy I don't even know, like, stuff.
I don't ever want to try to make you uncomfortable because you'll make me uncomfortable in the process.
Oh, probably, because it's very difficult for me to become uncomfortable. Like, I don't care, whatever. As long as we're not talking about, like, screwing a corpse, you're not going to make me uncomfortable, or an animal, because that's disgusting.
Well, duly noted, okay. Okay.
Other than that, like, you're not going to make me uncomfortable. Like, whatever, I don't
That's
care.
fair.
But, yeah, it was quite obvious that he wasn't real comfortable with the topic.
Although it was really good that he knew a guy, or he could get a guy right there on the spot.
And he seemed surprised by the guy too, which makes me chuckle.
It was gold. That was a great segment.
Well, I was at John and Dawn's last night, and we were talking about that segment, and I was like, the guy didn't really get into why he has a foot fetish. I was like, we should do that again. Like, I want to know the ins and outs of why he has a foot fetish.
Well, I think a lot of it was, I don't know if John and Dawn necessarily were ready for that guy to be like, I don't think they were. Eric was like, I'll get a guy, and John and Dawn were like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then he was like, okay, we're going to do it. And you don't have time to prep, so you don't have time to think of good questions.
Yeah, well, they asked him some pretty decent questions, and he just didn't really have decent answers, So, like...
Still, the guy's responses were gold. I mean, it was so much.
Oh, and then when they showed him the Vajenko... Like, dude, he was really into the Vajenko. He was asking all types of questions about the Vajenko.
As if we're a Vajenko salesman.
Right. It was hilarious, dude. Like, he probably went that night and bought himself a Vajenko.
I'll tell you what. I would love it. Because I think it would be absolutely hilarious if we could get sponsored by the Vajenko company.
Dude, we should look into that.
Contact
We talk about them enough.
Exactly. We probably sold a few of them.
Yeah, probably.
At least a few.
I know this guy probably bought a couple. So,
at least two.
Oh, yeah.
One for each foot.
Oh, he was like, can I get them modeled after, like, celebrities' feet? Do they have wide ones? Do they have narrow ones? And they were like, well, what would you prefer? He was like, I prefer a little wider foot. Like, my man was, like, into it, bro.
Yeah, I got a little uncomfortable, but it was
not to me.
Hilarious.
I was laughing.
I was at work listening to it, which was a bad idea.
Right.
But I was dying laughing at it.
Yeah, see, I don't care. Like, you want to talk about sex toys? Talk about sex toys. I don't care.
It is what it is.
It is. So,
speaking of that, Perez, who would you like to say hello to this week?
That was a good segue. I want to say hello to two people. I'm going to quickly say hello to a friend of mine named Alana Dalba. It was her birthday yesterday. They're having a big party today. Happy birthday, Alana. And then the second person I'm going to say hi to, and this may be a controversial one. I'm just going to throw this out there. This may be a controversial one. I'm going to say hello to the one and only Christy Teigen, John Legend's wife.
She's good people.
Well, here's the thing. I honestly don't know if I think she's hot. I think she's cute in the face, but she has a killer body, and anyone who readily admits that she hates wearing underwear is all right in my book. So
that's fair.
Yeah. And I've been watching the show Lip Sync Battle, which quite frankly is hilarious. And the other day she was nearly popping out of her top. So thank you, Christy, for that. And she's a swimsuit model, so there's all types.
She also has a phenomenal personality, and she's funny as hell.
She is funny, but I don't know if she's funny or just stupid. I can't place my finger on it, but I'm saying hello to Christy Teigen today because she does have a killer body.
That's fair.
A killer body. She wouldn't make my top 10 list of that the hall pass.
Yeah.
Like you run into these celebrities, you get a hall pass. She wouldn't make the top 10, but she's still pretty hot as far as her neck down and neck up. She's cute.
Fair enough.
John Legend seems like a mad cool dude, her husband. So I'm saying hello to Christy Teigen just because she's got a killer body and she doesn't like to wear undergarments. So I'm good with that.
That's fair, man.
Yes.
Not going to waste any time. I'm going to hit the bumper. Let's do it.
Gather round, kids. It's story time with Mr. Perez.
All right, so instead of a traditional story like I normally do for this particular segment, I'm going to make an announcement.
Breaking news.
I don't know if any of you saw the Twitter post that was done today, but last night I sat down with John and Dawn from Gear Network, and we hashed some things out. And the major announcement basically is that I, Mr. LG Perez, Mr. Louis G. Perez, that's me. We've teased it before, we've talked about it, but the podcast that I will be doing, Beyond the Smoke, which is a cigar-centric podcast, as well as news in the cigar world, and it'll be other things other than cigars also, but the primary gist will be cigars and cigar accessories and ratings and talking about news in the cigar world. Will be distributed on here on Gear Network. I will have my own website. I have 2 other partners that are going in on this with me. We are called the Smoke Productions. SmokeProductions.com will be up soon, hopefully. But basically what I'm going to do is, with what we have planned, I need my own website.
Absolutely.
I need my own, build, and basically I'm going to partner with Gear with this, to have Gear actually distribute the podcast.
Yeah, the best way to put it for people who don't understand is essentially Perez is making an album on his own label.
Yes.
And we're just distributing it for him.
Right.
We're putting it out there to the people.
Exactly.
And oh man.
What?
I just gotta say this right now. Burnley is playing Leicester City.
Okay.
They're both in the relegation zone, so they're trying to both win. He had a free kick, or whatever the hell it's called. I'm still out of words. Check it out real quick if you can see it. He beat the goalie, kicked the ball directly off the post.
That sucks.
Had a wide open net.
That sucks.
Back to the podcast. I'm sorry.
No, it's cool. So,
but it's essentially and you've told me about this a lot, Perez. So I'll just throw my 2 cents in really quick, as if it matters. It's going to be a big deal.
It is going to be a big
deal. There's
a
lot going on with this. You've told me some about it, and from what I gather,
the fact of the matter is,
it's gonna get big quick, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
That's what I'm hoping. I've perused a lot of cigar websites. I've seen what a lot of the other cigar websites do out there, and what we have planned is completely different than a lot of the cigar sites what they're doing right now. We're hoping to shake up the industry, so to speak. It's going to be fun. I want to send shouts out to your brother Eric. He created a couple logos for Beyond the Smoke, and he actually created a logo that we will actually be using as a cigar band,
which is going to be sick as hell.
Yeah. I showed you that one, right?
Oh yeah,
the gray and black.
Yep.
Yeah, it's so shouts out to Eric. He did a really awesome job with the actual Beyond the Smoke banner page, with the banner that we'll be using, and the cigar band that we'll be using. And now he's just working on the Smoke Productions banner.
And you know what? Real quick shout out to him. Just in terms of if you need graphics done, logos, anything.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, get a hold of him. He's at Eric Amenon on Twitter. I've got to get on him because he's been doing a lot of graphics lately. I got to get him have like a Facebook page or something or website started where people can contact him.
Yeah.
So we can get a commercial up.
Right.
I mean, he's done all the work for Gear Network. He's done all the stuff for Get Ready America. For some reason, I forgot the name of the podcast there for a second. Get Ready America, Better Live Than Dead, Beyond the Smoke,
right.
Smoke Productions. I mean, he does phenomenal work. There's a reason why I keep sending people to him.
Yeah, and I cannot be happier. When I was sending the logos over to the guys yesterday, they were really happy with it. Shout out to Eric. The bands are awesome. I'm going to try to get maybe a Spreaker page up soon through Gear for the podcast so I could get the logo out there so you guys can see it. I want to record a pilot episode soon,
certainly,
just so we can get that up there.
So you can kind of get, so people can kind of get the idea of what you're all about.
Right. But that's coming, and it's going to be awesome.
I'm just excited because, I'm not a very avid cigar smoker. As I tell you, Perez, I'm a baby. So when I smoke cigars, I feel sick afterwards because I used to smoke cigarettes, got all the tobacco out of my system, and then I started smoking cigars.
Right.
And then I stopped.
You know what? Now that you said that, though.
But listen, I'm excited to sit around. Like, I understand when you talk about cigars, I get the terminology. I understand what you mean by everything.
Right.
So when you sit around and talk about them, I enjoy that a lot. So it's a lot of fun to sit around and listen to you be like, oh, hey, this or that, and what all the fun stuff that you say. I'm excited. I look forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it too. But now that you said that,
oh God, what did I get myself into?
I'm going to tell a quick story. Me and John were talking yesterday, and he brought this story up. To Dawn. It was quite humorous.
By the way, before Perez goes, I want to apologize at this point of the podcast because we are going to go very long today.
Yes,
I've been meaning to get the interview with Matthew Coller in. We got it in. It was a good interview, as you can tell. I really enjoyed it. It was 20 minutes of good quality stuff, but we try to fit as much as we can in the podcast. So again, we apologize. I don't think you'll mind a week of the podcast going super long, but
no.
Continue, please.
So I used to hang out at the cigar shop called On the Rocks. It was called the Mount Hope Smoke Shop. It was connected to a bar called On the Rocks. And we used to hang out there, and I worked there part-time for a little while. It was owned by a guy named Nick. Nick was a nice guy. One night, me and John were there, and there was this guy there who had clearly been drinking, and he thought he was a bad dude. Like, he thought he was really cool. He wasn't, but he was acting like an idiot. And so at one point, I was smoking a Cuban cigar. It was a very strong Cuban cigar, very powerful Cuban cigar. So I had basically just pretty much got done with it, and I'd set it down. And the guy was like, "So what are you smoking?" And I was like, "It's a Cuban cigar, very strong cigar." And he was like, "I bet I could smoke it and not think it was strong." And so I was like, "Well, probably not. I wouldn't recommend it, But if you want to take a puff off of it, I asked him, like, are you used to smoking cigars?" And he wasn't at that time. I don't know what he was doing in a cigar shop, but he was in the cigar portion of it. So, long story short, this dude picks up the cigar that I had just been smoking, by the way, for quite some time. So the end was wet with my saliva, which is disgusting. But so I say to him, "Listen, whatever you do, don't inhale this cigar. Like, don't inhale the smoke. It will make you sick." And he was like, "Oh, I got it. No big deal. It's not going to make me sick. I'm tough, this and that." So why does he take a big puff and inhale the smoke? And the funny part is, as soon as he inhaled the smoke, his whole countenance changed. He went from being the rah-rah, I'm a tough kind of guy, to, oh crap, I just made a really big mistake. His face literally turned green, and he was trying to hold it in. He was trying to impress his girl, I can only assume. But then he just started coughing up a lung. I thought he was going to die. Like, he was coughing up a lung. And then, if that wasn't embarrassing enough, he ran outside and vomited in the bushes. Like, straight just threw up in the bushes. And his girlfriend was really confused about what happened. She got mad at me, like, "Why'd you let him do that?" And I was like, "He's the one who grabbed a cigar and thought he was a tough guy. Like, it's not my fault that your man's a freaking idiot." But, yeah, that was quite humorous.
That's good.
Threw up in the bushes.
That's why I don't mess around with cigars much anymore, because I get that feeling sometimes.
Which is crazy, because the cigars that I've given you are very mild
cigars.
Cigars.
Which I'm just I get halfway through it, and I'm just like, I don't feel so well, and I don't know why. I think it's got to be the tobacco or something, because I don't know. I kind of did crash diet the past year and a half, so everything that was in my system is really out of my system. So maybe that's what it is, but I can't tell you. I don't know.
Well, it's all good.
By the way, after a few minutes ago, after that horrible miss, Leicester City, my favorite soccer team, came back down and scored a goal, so they're up 1-0 right now.
Good job,
1-0. Well, hey, if they continue to do good, they've never won 4 straight in the Premier League. They're if they win today, they'll do that. They'll be out of the basement and they'll be avoiding relegation at this point.
That's good.
Which, you know, the way, I don't know if you know how soccer works, but real quick, you know, if you're in the Champions League, if you win the Champions League, you go to the Premier League. If you're in the bottom 3, you get kicked out back to the Champions League. That's how soccer works. That's why it's fun to watch. Excuse me. Leicester City, first year in, we're looking to get kicked out. They were the worst team in the Premier League, and now they've kind of hit their stride. They're getting better, and
that's good.
We can only hope, right?
So, you know, hello to Christy Teigen.
Exactly. Big things happening.
And look for Smoke Productions and Beyond the Smoke.
So it's going to be
coming soon.
It's going to essentially be like Beyond the Smoke, brought to you by the Smoke Productions, presented by Gear Network or something like that.
Yes.
It's just we're just gonna have fun with it, like we always do. And I'm sure I'll make an appearance on there. I'm sure John will make an appearance on there. If not, I mean, I'll make an appearance on the podcast. If not, behind the scenes, because you know me. I've already offered to as much help as you need. I'm there.
Which I appreciate.
Not a problem. I just keep telling you so you don't forget, because I really want to help, because I like doing things.
It's nice of you.
I like helping people who help me. So that being said, we will come back, talk some National Football League quick, and wrap up this longer podcast. Not a bad thing, though. It's the 40th podcast. Better Live Than Dead. We got to have some fun with it. It's our birthday, kind of. Almost. 12 more episodes until 52. We'll be right back after this.
Do you enjoy listening to Better Live Than Dead, but you're not always by your laptop to hear it on GearNetwork.com? Not to worry, we've got you covered. Better Live Than Dead and all other Gear Network podcasts can now be heard on iHeartRadio, iTunes, in the Zune Marketplace, on SoundCloud, Spreaker, Stitcher Radio, and on TuneIn Radio. So make sure you get one of the aforementioned apps to stay up to date with the latest Gear Network podcasts.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's your boy Perez here, telling you about FanDuel's one-day fantasy baseball leagues. Every day you pick the player you want, you can pick a whole team, and play for real money against other users. FanDuel has over 20,000 one-day leagues, so joining in is never an issue. Also, there's no daily commitment, so you play whenever you want. The best part? Over $2 million in prizes every single day. And if you sign up through GearNetwork.com/FanDuel, you help support the network and keep this podcast free.
Hey, Gear listeners, are you looking for some new music? This month's Song of the Month is You're So Beautiful, from the soundtrack to one of my favorite new shows, the hit Fox TV show Empire. You can purchase this song on Amazon MP3 or iTunes for $1.29, or purchase the full deluxe album for just $13.99 by visiting GearNetwork.com/Song of the Month and selecting the link. This is an easy way to support our network, and as always, your support goes a long way in keeping all of our podcasts free.
You're listening to Better Live Than Dead on the Gear Radio Network.
Welcome back to the podcast. Number 40, Better Live Than Dead. Hashtag BLTD.
That's right.
Follow us on Twitter now, at BLTD Podcast. I was going to wait till the end, but I can't wait any longer, man. I started the tweet bots. Got some fun stuff happening there.
Right.
I should probably take a picture right now and post it on the Twitter feed of Perez. I'm going to take a picture right now. This is breaking the fourth wall.
Breaking the fourth wall.
Let me zoom in on Perez's face. You're looking, you got no face. It's okay, though. The weird part,
like you.
The weirdest part about the podcast, thank you. I always like getting to the microphone and stuff. I don't have a very deep voice, so I'm not like, I can't sit back and be like, hey, yo, I'm Perez. Whatever. I can't do that.
No, you really can't.
I'm trying not to do an impression of you.
It's all good.
I'm just not going to. So I just try to get my voice as deep as possible. I haven't hit puberty yet, okay?
It's all good, man.
Sometimes these things happen, whatever. I'm going to hashtag, watch this, I'm going to hashtag, what the hell happened here? Hashtag, or look at, I don't even know what I want to say on a podcast now. I'm going to ask you what you think about Tim Tebow going to the Philadelphia Eagles talking football right now.
You know what? Listen, I hope that he makes the team. I hope that, he gets a second chance in his career because this is obviously what he wants to do. I hope he's improved enough to where Mark Sanchez is scared because I've never liked Mark Sanchez. So, I really don't have. I don't know if you were expecting a crazy reaction or
no. The laugh was good enough for me.
Yeah, no, I don't. That's what I hope. I hope that he, finds his way on that football field and he makes a career of it. His contract is garbage.
He's got a 1-year deal where they'll probably end up cutting him by the end of camp. But here's the deal.
Unless he's improved enough to where he gets to stay.
Tom House from USC is very confident that he has improved Tim Tebow enough to make him viable in the National Football League. But here's the deal. Tebow's not going to start. We'll talk a little more about that later with the Philadelphia Eagles, but they said Tim Tebow would be brought in if they got rid of a guy. There's a teaser. We'll talk a little more about that later.
Right.
Safety Adrian Wilson retires. He last played in 2013 with the Patriots. He retires with the Cardinals, who he spent 12 years with, 13 years in the National Football League, 27 picks, 25.5 sacks. 6 teams reportedly interested in dealing for Adrian Peterson. They say if the deal most likely needs to happen sooner than later, the closer they get to the season, the less likely they are to deal him.
Right.
Baltimore extends cornerback Jimmy Smith 4 years, $48 million. Cincinnati, what do you think about this, Perez? They extend head coach Marvin Lewis through 2016. The man has yet to win a playoff game, yet is still employed by the same franchise.
Yeah, but he's got a good rep. The players like him.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the thing is that he's still... I honestly, I don't think that Andy Dalton's that good. I mean,
no.
That's just my opinion.
No.
Anyways.
I think that's really what's hurting them is their quarterback.
Well, I'm quite confident that Andy Dalton is good. He's not good enough. He's good.
He's good, but not good enough.
And that's their problem. The Miami Dolphins signed wide receiver Greg Jennings.
Yes.
He put the team on his back, though. You ever seen that video?
No.
Greg Jennings with a broke leg, a guy playing him on Madden.
Yes.
That's a great video. Carson City approves a San Diego and Oakland stadium, $1.7 billion.
That's expensive.
It's just the latest move in the chess match that is
right.
St. Louis, San Diego, and Oakland. There's no details released aside from the fact that they approved the stadium. They sent out some pictures, like when the Chargers score a touchdown, lightning bolt shoot and everything.
Awesome.
But that's really it. We've got pictures, and I'll tell you what, there's nothing I love more than
conceptual pictures.
Conceptual stadium concept porn, I guess is the best way to put it. That's my favorite.
Right.
Where there could be a book on my table, a coffee table book,
yes,
of just stadium concept, no words, just pictures, and I would look at it for days. They are so, for some reason, I'm not an architect.
You may want to get a life.
I just love looking at stadium concepts. Thanks, Perez.
No problem.
Or like old pictures of old stadiums,
That's cool.
Or like stadium deconstruction, like they took Candlestick Park down this week.
Right.
That stuff's cool. Or like when they took down the Odd in Buffalo.
Yep.
Or people that went in the Odd before they took it down in a dark, empty, moldy arena and they were taking photos and stuff. That stuff's cool to me.
That's cool.
It's very interesting to me. Dallas defensive end Greg Hardy suspended the first 10 games of the season for conduct detrimental to the team.
Awesome.
Interesting because they didn't say it was because of what happened, but it's just because he conduct detrimental. So they put under different terms, so it's harder to fight. But they said, Adam Schefter reported a couple days ago, it's expected that the game total will be dropped in an appeal, but still he'll be out a handful of games.
Hey, I'd like to say something real quick to all you people that are listening to this. If you could give some positive thoughts or prayers out to Nepal. They just got hit with a massive earthquake. And at least 1,000 people are considered dead already.
Wow.
So this is breaking news happening right now. So I like to send out, some positive thoughts to them.
Absolutely.
Some prayers to the country.
Especially because out there they don't have the infrastructure we have. So it hits them 10 times as worse.
Yeah, so that's too bad. That's horrible.
Absolutely. Hopefully things get better for them soon.
All right, back to sports.
It's got really depressing there.
That's why I said back to sports that way.
The schedules were released this week in the National Football League. Pittsburgh is going to open up against New England on Thursday Night Football. Now, Perez, we talked about this before the podcast, but if there's anything Lewis hates more than New England Patriots, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of either one of those teams.
I did wait for your reaction there.
I was yawning, sorry.
It's okay. I was thoughtful and waited for the reaction. With that being said, I believe the Steelers are going to get their asses handed to them this year.
Oh, it's going to be ugly.
Well, they're a bad football team, and now they're without Troy Polamalu and Ike Taylor.
Yeah,
watch out, it's going to be ugly.
It's going to be real ugly.
Starting off with the Buffalo Bills, Week 1, they're home against the Colts. That will be a fun game to watch because the Bills' defense is really good. The offense is better on paper, at least. Can the defense stop the potential? The most likely popular pick for the Super Bowl this year, Indianapolis Colts. Can they stop
You
them?
think they're the popular pick this year?
They added Frank Gore and Andre Johnson to that offense already. With Andrew Luck, I mean, yeah, I'm going to say a lot of people are going to pick the Colts to go to the Super Bowl.
Huh, interesting.
It's how things work out, man.
We'll see.
We'll talk about that later, though.
Yes.
Week 10, at the Jets. Rex Ryan's returned to New York to face the Jets on Thursday Night Football, NFL Network. The next week, Week 11, at New England.
The Jets are going to get buried in that game.
At New England. I agree with you. At New England, Week 11, Monday Night Football. That's going to be a lot of fun.
That will be a lot of fun.
Especially if it's midseason, the Bills are doing good, the Patriots are doing good. It could be phenomenal football. Speaking of the New York Jets, they open Week 1 versus the Cleveland Browns. Week 4, they are in...
Oh, that's going to be a horrible game.
Oh, absolutely. Week 4, they're in Miami against London. In Miami. In London against Miami.
There you go.
Thank you.
No problem.
Chewing on my mouth over here. And then the Dallas Cowboys. Week 1 against the Giants in Dallas. Sunday Night Football. Week 14, they get that big rematch against the Packers.
Yep.
Week 15, home against the Jets.
Yep.
Cowboys will probably destroy them.
Oh, it's not even going to be nice.
Week 16, Bills and Cowboys in Buffalo.
You know what? And that's, you know what? I want to go see the Dallas Cowboys. It's my team. I love the Dallas Cowboys.
That's going to be a good game.
But it's going to be in Buffalo in like December 27th.
There's going to be a lot of Cowboys fans.
It's going to be cold as hell.
And the Bills it might be a playoff game too. It might be one of those where a team needs to win to get in, and that might not even be a 1 o'clock game. It might end up being a 4 or an 8 o'clock game.
Yeah, I don't know if I can.
How great would it be if it was like the 10-3 Bills? Well, if it's week 16, so it'd be 15 games. So we'll say the
10-4.
10-4 Bills against the 10-4 Cowboys. Sunday Night Football, Buffalo. It's snowing. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That would be amazing to watch from my couch.
From my couch,
exactly. With a nice warm, nice cold beer on my couch in the heat.
Because I can't stand the cold.
Absolutely, it makes me miserable. This whole week it's been cold. I've been a baby.
Yeah, and I don't want to be standing in the cold,
crapping my pants. That's how mad I am about it.
It's not fun.
As we mentioned before, the National Football League draft is this week, April 30th through May 2nd. Going to jump in head first real quick, try to wrap things up quickly over here. Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, where do you think they land? I think Winston goes 1 to Tampa Bay. They've made that pretty clear.
Well, they have. I think he's going to fall to 5.
So who does Tampa Bay pick 1?
Leonard Williams.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Defensive end, because they need that too.
I think that, and this is what I mentioned, I teased about the Philadelphia Eagles, the reason why they picked up Tim Tebow. There's reports coming out from Mark Eichel of New Jersey, NJ.com. Philadelphia reportedly interested in dealing Sam Bradford to Cleveland for 19, dealing pick 19 and pick 20, Michael Kendricks and Fletcher Cox to Tennessee for number 2, which would be Marcus Mariota. Also, Bleacher Report's Jason Cole said during the week, Bradford says he feels like he's going to get dealt.
Really?
That's the feeling is he's going to get traded.
Interesting.
Cleveland wanted Sam Bradford.
Right.
But Cleveland didn't have the quarterback to give to St. Louis.
Right.
Which obviously the Eagles did. So if the Eagles got rid of Nick Foles, turned into Marcus Mariota with his old head coach, who he was really successful with, maybe, but That's going all in.
You know what? I can see the Jets taking a quarterback first. But who do you think would fit better with their scheme? Marcus Mariota or Jameis? I stole some
famous Jameis
crabs.
Did you hear what he said this week?
Winston.
He said that he was a gift from a guy at Publix, one of the guys that worked there. Whatever, full of crap. I think probably Mariota would fit in New York better, but I don't think they're going that way. I think the Jets end up probably taking like Amari Cooper.
Yeah, maybe.
Because, I mean, yeah, right now you have Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback, but you've seen Ryan Fitzpatrick with the
Bills,
decent people around him. He can kind of be serviceable.
Right.
You've got to be very careful not to put too much on his plate, but he can kind of be serviceable. The Buffalo Bills have no first-round pick. It's very unlikely they're going to trade up. I mean, last year they traded their pick to Cleveland for their pick 19, which may go to the Tennessee Titans now. Rumored, but that was the pick for Sammy Watkins to move up,
which was a good pick.
Not a bad bet.
No.
The Jets at 6. Obviously, I said Amari Cooper. I think that just makes the most sense. Dallas, they pick at 27. Perez, who would you like to see go to Dallas at 27?
I think we need an offensive. I think we need a defensive. No, I would say offensive line. Someone on the offensive line. I think with Greg Hardy being suspended for 10 games, we need a pass rusher. We need another pass rusher. We need someone that could go up the middle. I just had my list and I just deleted it.
That's okay. Well, I'm thinking the guy who's not going to end up in Dallas, but I would, for your sake, I would hope he would, is Melvin Gordon from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
But I think if Todd Gurley hangs around until 20, you may see a chance Gordon goes, because Gurley goes before Gordon.
True.
But if Todd Gurley goes early in the first, like early to mid first, Gordon will probably be gone by 27. But if he's not, you've got to take him.
Yeah, that's true. You do.
The goalie for Leicester City just.
I had who I thought they were going to take.
He just pimp slapped the ball away as a guy almost scored a goal. 82nd minute. It's a big game.
See. Because, I mean, the Cowboys, they obviously don't at this point need a
There's not a lot that they absolutely need at this point.
No, there's not a lot that they need. They do, however, absolutely have to get a running back.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you can get him anywhere, but if you get a Melvin Gordon in the first round, it may be.
We need a quarterback. We need a defensive tackle, a linebacker.
A quarterback for the future.
Yeah.
Not for now.
Right. So.
Obviously.
So I don't know.
Well, we'll find out. It's okay if you don't know. We'll find out. Nothing wrong with that. It's okay.
I got nothing for you.
We'll talk more about the draft next week. Obviously, with the draft being over, we'll have the results and we can discuss what happened and how dumb the Philadelphia Eagles are, no matter what they do, because it's funny to talk crap about the Eagles. But with that being said, this is Football Talk. We're not going to go to commercial break because we're running long, so we're just going to take a quick powwow here, which all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn Perez's microphone off and on. Okay, and then we're going to turn mine off and on. Okay, we are back. What a commercial break that was, Perez.
That was awesome.
It's been a great podcast. I want to say, got a long list of thank yous today. First off, thank you, Matthew Coller from WGR, for joining us to talk Sabres, Amherst.
Yes, thank you.
And Jack Eichel, among other things. I want to say thank you to you, Perez, for being here today and bringing donuts.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
It's awesome.
Anytime.
You brought some different donuts today. They were the one donut was good. The other one is kind of weird, but it's okay. You live and you learn. I'm weird. I'm a weird guy.
It's because you're odd.
I want to say thank you to Brayton Wilson, my friend from Sabres Hockey Central, who recorded the station identification for us this week, which he'll be working on a few more. Because I know, Perez, you have a phenomenal voice, but I was just thinking, if, like, say, for instance, we go to commercial break, and again, we're breaking the fourth wall here, but it's something I feel like is necessary to talk about. If say, for instance, Perez says, you're listening to Better Live Than Dead podcast exclusively on the Gear Radio Network, and then we come back from commercial break, and then Perez is talking, you're kind of like, wait, what's going on?
Right.
Or if you get a different voice that comes in and says, what Brayton said, you're listening to Better Live Than Dead on Gear Radio Network, and then you hear music, and then you hear my voice, you're like, oh, okay, we're cutting off the commercial, and we're back to talking again.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to do. Make it more like a radio station over here.
Hi, Christy Teigen.
Hi to you. Keep up she's a great follow on Twitter, too.
Yeah.
And Instagram. Great follow.
She got an Instagram?
I think she does.
I'm about to look that up.
You probably should.
Probably should.
I want to say thank you to John and Dawn for...
Hi, guys. Yes, you just
I don't know. This guy's like... Two of these guys just ran into each other. I think they're both dead. They're acting like it.
That sucks. Yeah, but those soccer players are overly dramatic. They love to act like they're dead.
No, this guy just took this other guy's legs out at full speed and pirouetted or pinwheeled him.
Okay.
That didn't look very good.
So it was a legit hit.
Oh yeah.
Not
The one guy didn't know the other guy was coming, and it's his teammates, and they took each other out. Like I said, Perez, it's a big game today. Very big game. Leicester City needs 3 points. They need 3 points. Again, thank you to John and Dawn. Thank you again to Perez for making Beyond the Smoke happen. I'm very excited to see what you do with it and get some commercials on the air.
Looking forward to it.
I was thinking about making a commercial from like Cypress Hill. I think it's Cypress Hill. Hits from the Bong. I mean, it's not the podcast, but you get it's not that you're not smoking that kind of stuff on your podcast.
No.
But the noise is in the background. I thought it would be a funny way to make a commercial, but I'll wait. I'll let you do your own thing. We can record some commercials here in our spare time. But hello, Canada. Hello, everyone else who listens.
Hi, Canada.
All over the world. Thank you for tuning into the Better Live Than Dead podcast. And everybody else, thank you to each and every single one of you for tuning in every single week, making this a very good podcast. 40 weeks running, 40 episodes running, less than 40 weeks, more, or you get what I'm saying, okay?
So I just realized
less than 40 weeks, but we have 40 episodes.
I just realized I need to backtrack on my hello, because I've been calling her Christy Teigen. It's Chrissy Teigen. It's Chrissy Teigen. I've been pronouncing her name wrong this entire time.
Sorry.
So hello to Chrissy Teigen.
Sorry and hello. How's that sound?
Yes.
Okay.
And yes, she does have Instagram.
I'm trying to think of anything else. I think we hit everything. It's a long podcast again. Sorry. Hope you enjoy it. Let us know what you think. Follow us on Twitter.
I know we enjoyed it.
I loved it. I love this every week. Every Saturday morning, I look forward to podcasting.
Me too.
At BLTD Podcast on the tweets. Follow us. Maybe we'll have a giveaway or something soon.
Yes.
Facebook.com/BLTD Podcast. You see how that works out. You have the same title for each thing. It keeps the fluidity. That's a word.
Easy to find.
Well, my friend Kelsey, who is in that field, has pointed out to me that it is more logical to have everything the same than to have everything different, which is true.
True that.
So that's all BLTD Podcast. GearNetwork.com, Facebook.com/Gear Network, at Gear Network on Twitter. For Mr. Perez.
For Ryan Wolf.
We are Better Live Than Dead.
You're not.
We'll see you next week.
Adios.
Episode 41. Talk baseball, football, hockey, basketball, the whole gamut of the sporting world. We're going to talk about it next week, exclusively here at Better Live Than Dead podcast. Well, we don't talk about it exclusively on the podcast. We talk about whenever we want to. But the podcast is heard exclusively on the Gear Radio Network.
That's right.
We'll see you, friends. Have a good one.
Later.